Aloha nui kākou. For our presentation about nurturing Indigenous ways of being, knowing, and becoming through our connections with place, land, and community, and conceptual ideas such as spirituality and culture, we chose to focus on the Nahonua Mauliola Framework's cultural pathways, otherwise known as Na'ala Ike. A very common way for Indigenous peoples to show their connections to place is by storytelling. Chants, songs, and dance are often used as vehicles in sharing and painting a picture of connections to places. Warner suggests that Western educational practices dissect and disconnect knowledge, while Native ways of knowing presumes a holistic context. The primary difference between the two lies in the emphasis of Native ways of knowing on knowing as a verb, and Western educational practices that emphasize the accumulation of knowledge, a noun.
In the following slides, I will talk about community and how community is a strong component of Indigenous people's identity. Place, land, and community play an important role in the well-being of Indigenous people. Moreover, community plays an important role in helping one construct Indigenous identity. I have decided to use the pronoun we because I have been assigned to talk about community, and I believe that community shouldn't be a term used in the third person singular. So that is why I use we. And my understanding of identity is one that I have taken from the work of Bonnie Norton, which I know is not an Indigenous person, but she has worked extensively with Indigenous communities back in Canada. And the concept or the definition that she uses on identity is how one understands the relation one has with the world and others. And I would add how one understands one's relation with the universe, the community, and others. And when it comes to community and identity, I believe that we are and we become, and it is an action, a realization we all accomplish as a group, as a community. It's not an individual task. And people in my community and people in communities, they help one obtain and understand the essence of being. Like, who am I and why I'm here and what is my purpose? And I believe that it is through the relationships that I have with others, that one has with others. And it is through the teachings from the elders and the ones who are experts in our communities, from family, from relatives, from friends, that we are able to become, that we are able to know, to understand who we are. Also, I think that community helps one acquire this perspective on life, which is not subject to time or space. We become and we transcend. And it is through those relationships that we become and we transcend and we imprint in ourselves and others that identity, that sense of belonging and membership. We become and we are with oneself, with others, and it is the communion among all the members of that community, that connection, that gratitude, those feelings of love, of, as I said, belonging, that really, really shape our identity. And it is through those relationships that we know who we are. And they are in the core of our identity. And when it comes to Indigenous people, myself not being fully Indigenous, but trying to embark on this journey for reclaiming my Indigenous identity, is that I've learned that despite all the harm and the hostilities, that others have given us and times and our societies have given us, we persevere, we stand, and we are. And it is through that sense of community that we actually accomplish these things. It is through these interactions and these actions that we know who we are, that we know we are Indigenous people.
When discussing how land can help nurture Indigenous ways of knowing, it's important to acknowledge traditional owners. The University of Arizona, for example, is located on the ancestral lands of the Tohono O'odham Nation. Knowledge of elders are also important, where Dr. Kathy Absalon, an Anishinaabe researcher, states that elders are the ones who know the land and the old ways and have lived and survived. They have stories to share, and those stories contain knowledge and wisdom. Barnhart and Kawagli, working in the Yupik Nation, states that environmentally sustainable practices show that the depth of Indigenous knowledge rooted in the long inhabitation of a particular place offers lessons that can benefit everyone, from educated to scientists, as we search for a more satisfying and sustainable way to live on this planet. To explain how spirituality can help nurture Indigenous ways of being, I'm going to read out part of a quote from Dr. Vicky Greaves, a Worimi and Tasmanian Indigenous Australian. She states that spirituality, a sense of fulfillment and knowing who you are, is a state of being that includes knowledge, calmness, acceptance and tolerance, balance and focus, inner strength, cleansing, and inner peace, feeling whole, an understanding of cultural roots, and a deep well-being.
Our ceremonies, rituals, and traditions are the foundations of our cultures and have been passed down for tens of thousands of years. They teach us and give us our identity, our relationships, our cultural knowledge. Creator, Kulan Sutin, gave us the animals, the plants, the water, and the land as gifts, and to teach us how to be true human beings. It was the plants and the animals that gave us our original instructions and continue to guide us. As we know, everything in the world is alive and sacred, and it is through ceremonies, rituals, and traditions that teach us how to behave and how to treat ourselves, each other, and every single thing in the world. For example, a rock is alive and sacred in the sweat lodge with very specific rituals to prepare the rocks for the ceremony. A rock can also be passed down as a tradition for a place to stop and camp along the trail, or as a very sacred site. The gathering and preparing of the Bitterroot Feast in my tribe has ceremony, ritual, and traditions involved in many ways. When the men go to hunt, the women to gather, and when stories are told in the winter, these things are passed down through our ceremonies, rituals, and traditions. Through our daily lives, these things teach us how to be good human beings, true human beings, and happy human beings.
O ka'olelo ke ka'au ka maoli. Language is the fiber that binds us to our cultural identity. Wasabi argues that culture is a language in itself, that a particular language points to the culture of a particular social group. Learning a language, therefore, is not only learning the alphabet, the meaning, the grammar rules, and the arrangement of words, but it is also learning the behavior of the society and its cultural customs. Thus, language teaching should always contain explicit reference to the culture, the whole from which the particular language is extracted.